Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I have my good friend Dan here. Now, Dan, I love to mess up people's names, but let me know how to pronounce your last name because obviously, if I try to pronounce it, I'm going to make it sound really stupid.
I mean, I don't know. Now I kind of want you to guess it. I
No,
kind of want to be like,
no.
come on, man. No,
I am so
All right.
bad at it. It's one of my things where I am not good at that. So
Okay, fair. I get pronunciation issues from my wife. She's like, it doesn't say that. I was like, okay,
you're like, that's
okay.
not right. That's not
Yeah,
right.
say it this way, and I'll still pronounce it the wrong way just to mess with her. So it's fine. So it's beef. So it's,
Wow,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was way off. I was going to say something totally different. So that is totally fine. I love
It's
that.
French, so that's
French,
why.
huh? Wow.
Well, French Canadian. So I don't know if that's
all right. Well,
anyway.
that's something. It's amazing in a way, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Do we need to figure out exactly why that is? No, you're French. Your background is French, right?
Yeah, my dad came from Canada, and his family or his family's family came from France and all of that. So, and he lived in Quebec, which is French Canadian. So
I always wanted to go to Quebec. Nice.
It is beautiful up there. I haven't been to old Quebec. My brother went at one point, and it was like the pictures were beautiful, and I was just like, I should do that someday. Yeah,
you should. Have you been to Montreal?
Oh, all the time. My dad's godmother lived there, so we would constantly go up, like every, I don't know, 6 months, 3 months, something like that. When I was a kid,
I
lived like on the border. So,
oh, you were right there. So did you ever
right there?
I mean, you can explain. I guess, what's close to Montreal? Is it what's the other major city?
So in Canada or
in Canada?
US?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you're getting over into like other areas like Quebec and other, but I feel like yeah. That's why I'm not sure. I think New York and the way the country kind of line out. Quebec's Montreal's the first city you kind of hit as you're leaving on that side. So.
Wow.
Yeah,
I need to actually visit there. That'd be great. I mean, I've visited pretty much all over the world at this point, but I should probably check it.
I see.
Not all over the world. I've only been to most of what's the word I'm looking for? Most of Eastern Europe. Is I'm about to say that Eastern Europe. That's probably Western Europe. So technically, Ireland, UK, Scotland, Amsterdam, Paris. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
now you got Germany and Italy and
I know
so many others. The whole Mediterranean.
I know. That's still on my bucket list of places to go. So I'm hoping. I hope that happens in 2025 or further.
Yeah.
But let me know what's been happening with you. You recently just got married, right?
I sure did.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. As of August.
Yeah.
We got married. Yeah.
How's that been for you? Married life now.
I mean, now there's a ring on my finger.
Not much changed. You're like,
no, not really. I mean, it's funny because I always got that question, like especially after the first month, and I was just like, nothing. Like we're still like we were living together before. We were basically sharing our lives before. We had like joint bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. I think the only difference is now she's on my insurance.
Which is definitely a plus, honestly. I mean, nowadays in art.
I mean, she was all like, I have no insurance. When's your insurance? I need insurance. Where's your insurance?
She's like, sign the paper, sign the marriage certificate. Okay, so when's that insurance start?
Yeah. I have this thing I gotta go get looked at. Like, what's no?
Yeah, like
no,
what's yeah? Oh God, no, hope not.
No. No.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's awesome. Also, she's a baker. She makes amazing desserts and cakes. By the way, are just chef's kiss. Amazing.
She's amazing, and it's funny because you can say that to her and she'll just blush and not.
She will.
Right? Like I'm like, girl, like own it. You're great.
Seriously,
do it.
I don't even like dessert, and I always tell Wendy, I'm like, I don't like dessert, but if it comes to your dessert, I'm just gonna have to have it because I know it's good. It's really good. So
it's amazing.
I give her credit every time. Like you turn me into a person that does not like dessert to maybe like dessert. That's a huge feat. That's a huge feat.
That's the same thing. Same thing. Like I started dating her, and I was like, I don't do it.
You're
whatever.
like, it's fine. It's
okay. And then I ate hers, and I'm just like, okay, that was a great cake. Like, what the hell? Like, I can't. But yeah, no, she does a great job. And then I had to like have this conversation being like, okay, don't tell everyone what's wrong with it. Like, just enjoy. Just enjoy. Because she's the worst critic, right? Like, so, which we all
like
know.
All the greats are. Yeah, I feel like whenever you're good at something, you always feel that way. Like, is it good enough, this and that? But it's always flawless. I always tell every time, keep it up. Keep it up. I love that. How has your winter been so far? I mean, it's almost over now. We're almost to spring, right? I know, right?
Yeah. It's been good. It's been good. I mean, I recently got a new job, so because of that, it's been nice where it's, it's a good job. So settling into that has been good. And I feel like, I'm ready for spring. I'm ready to like kind of go into the summer months and really push forward with this position. And so it's been good. What about you? How's things been?
About the same as you. I mean, work's been great. Obviously, the podcast is going pretty good. Season 2 starting off pretty strong, which I'm really happy about. Getting ready for my Oscar party, which, you guys are always welcome to come if you have time out of your busy schedules. Getting ready for that. And then no travel. It's funny. I've built up this travel persona to be like, oh my God, I'm gone every day or every other day or every month. And now A, for cost, and B, it's like I just like to just relax sometimes. And I know it's going to be a heavy like kind of summer and fall in the case is. So I'm like, let me just enjoy like just being here and just like relaxing before the madness happens. So, and I think I talked to you before. It's like I have 5 weddings already, and it's like I'm not even looking forward to like. I mean, I'm not happy for my friends. I'm very happy for them, but I'm just like, it's just.
This is where they turn out the podcast, and they're like, "This guy." I'm like, I'm done with you.
Yeah. I'm like, but it's like it's such a commitment, and it's kind of like I try to say no to some of them. I kind of said no to one. Not like unintentionally, but it was just like I had 1 year, I had 6, and I was like, that was just too many, And I'm like, I love my friends, I love all of them, I'm happy for every single one of them, but I'm like, I guess the point where you just can't do too much. It's like 5 is my max. I got lucky. It is. Last year I only had 2, so that was good.
Okay.
This year I got 5, so it's they're spaced out, thank God, but it's still.
But weren't you saying like you're the best man in one of them? So now you're dedicated to that one.
I have to definitely go to that one. That's one of my old school friends from forever, and that little shit decided to wait to the last minute to tell me this, and I just was like, well, here's the thing. Like, I don't know if you went through this, with your wedding scenario, but wedding, or think of it this scenario. It's like, you think that like you have everything together, everything's happening, what's going on, everything's, what you're going to do. And I asked him this, probably, this is about maybe 2 years at this point. I had a feeling he was going to go down this road. Granted, he had a baby. So I was putting 2 and 2 together, but I was like, okay, this is going to happen. And then he goes, yeah, I'm not for sure. I'm not whatever. I'm going to move it again. I have to figure this out. Understandable. Things happen. Life happens.
Yeah.
Not faulting you for that. Then it comes down to the point where he finally decides to do it. And then he's like, yeah, I still don't know who. He's like, well, you'll be in the wedding, but I haven't decided on roles yet. I'm like, what is this, The Bachelor? Like, what do you mean you haven't decided on roles? Like, you're either a groomsman or you're a best man. I don't really know what other options there are at this point. But
did you get a rose? Did he send you a rose with the?
No, don't touch anything. I didn't even get a rose. So I was just like, this bullshit. So then I text him and I go, okay, fine. So I said, well, let me know whenever you decide. But I feel like as a best man, there's a lot more things that go into that. If you are going to be considered a best man, there's like a bachelor party if you have one, or pictures or suit fittings or whatever the case may be, a speech, So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get high on my horse to think that is me, but I'm like, well, I mean, it should be me. Let's be
Right.
honest.
Sure.
But
Yeah, of
I don't
course.
want to, I don't want to assume. But I said whatever. So he hasn't told me anything for like this is probably almost a year, actually a year ago this day, and he's like, "Yeah, still deciding." And so his mom calls me, and I'm like, she's like, "I hope you got your best man speech ready." And I'm like, "What?" I was told I was just going to be a groomsman. Like me and my friend are just going to show up and just be groomsmen, which I was
Right.
okay with.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, I've heard different." I'm like, "Well, you heard a lot more than I have, so I don't know what's happening." And then I'll tell you, the day I actually found out was the day I got the invite, which is literally about maybe 2 months ago.
Jesus.
And the wedding is this May.
So how far are you on the speech? I hope this story's in the speech.
Part of it I want to put in there and just be like, for someone who's the best man and the best friend, kind of came.
They're married 2 days ago,
right? I'm like, I had to clear my calendar. So I have some ideas what I'm going to say that's funny and nice and witty. I still care about him, but
that's when you go and beat him up next time. Afterwards, just be like, "Come on, man, what the hell?"
He's such a little shithead sometimes. I'm just like, and he has all these grand gestures of things, and I'm like, that's nice, but you could keep it chill and simple. I mean, sure, wedding, you do what you want to do. I think what did it for me was when his mom asked me if I had a lightsaber, because I didn't realize he's getting married on May the 4th. And so for our listeners out there, you know exactly what day that is.
Yeah, that's Star Wars everything. So you have one?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't have one, but I for years thought about getting one, but then I thought about the idea of it. Well, here's the thing. What are you going to do with a lightsaber? Like, what are you going to do with it?
You're going to put it... my background has books and a big Iron Man coming out of it.
I don't see...
you can hang it on your wall.
I don't... Yeah, no.
You get two of them, do that like old school, like crisscross thing where
the light and the light and dark.
Yes, a red and a blue.
Not. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. So I decided I was gonna get one, but then I was like, she's gonna buy. His mom's buying some fake ones, whatever. I mean, they're really the new ones or the real ones are really expensive. They're almost like
they really are
for some dollars. Like I was like, I went to D23 last year, and I was like, people were like waiting in line about to die for this shit, and I was like, okay.
I mean,
they're really big. I get it.
Yeah.
I do have an elder wand, so I'm more of a Harry Potter head. So I do have an elder wand. It's somewhere sitting in storage. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere in my room.
Well, as a Harry Potter fan, I got to ask the question: how you feeling right now about it?
Did I miss something that's going on in the Harry Potter universe?
Not the universe.
Besides the remake that's about to happen.
Well, there's that. But I guess I was going a little more political with it and being like, the writer is not the best.
What's her face? She's canceled. She's not canceled. I just here's the thing. People need really good PR agents. And I say this for two reasons. One, it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to have ideas and theories or beliefs. We're not all the same.
Sure.
And I get that. I think when you put it on a platform where you are already a person who is of a certain stature or of a well-known person, certain things should be posted or talked about.
Right. Yeah.
That's always going to be my controversial stand on it. Like, it's almost like when you think about racism. You're like, you shouldn't be a racist. Well, I'd be dumb to think no one's not a fucking racist.
Fair.
There are people out there that are like that. Just don't fucking say it to my face or say it in public or on a forum.
Right.
I believe in free speech. You can say whatever the hell you want to say, but if it's going to cite violence.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the question is like, well, I guess my thought is, what would the feeling be in regards to, promoting it, not just posting, but then also money, right? That becomes even more of an issue.
You just said it right there. The money. It becomes a thing where it's like you have a $1 billion franchise, and what do? You throw it all away when you're just making you that much money? I don't think you're going to do that. I don't think any studio would do that. So,
right.
Now, if she was diddling little kids or like a pedophile or something else like that, we might have a different conversation. But hopefully. No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's like. I'm just saying, when you get in the world of Hollywood, it becomes this whole level of like certain things are just washed away.
Yeah.
And
I think my noise was more like, well, we don't know. Like, I
We
mean,
don't.
again,
We
Hollywood.
don't. I don't want to put her in a box and say she's an awful human being because I think since then she's probably apologized for it and admits errors or ways, which we all make mistakes. We understand that. But it's also like, just don't post about it. If you feel a certain way, then just don't post about it. That's it.
And that's the apologies I've always been okay with, is the ones where they're like, yeah, I feel that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have put it out there. My bad, right? Like, not in that kind of nonchalant way, but more in the way of like, I acknowledge what I did was wrong
Of course.
versus what I feel is wrong, right? And I feel like those apologies that everyone comes out with is all like, oh, I have to atone for what I did. And it's like, look, we all know you are not going to learn anything. The fact that you posted shows that you're not learning anything.
You already didn't learn shit the first time. Yeah, exactly. So
right.
no, I'm
so
not
don't lie to us.
Yeah, exactly.
That you're going to learn.
I'm not going to take that fake apology that you had because it's not sincere. It's not forward. I respect you more if you're just like, yeah, I didn't say it. Like you said, I didn't say I should have said it that way. That was how I felt. Shouldn't have posted. I'm like,
yeah, that's fine. I mean, would I still support them? Maybe not, but at least.
And I think it's a personal choice of people, and I think that's totally fine. I think everyone has every right to feel a certain way about it. You know, I am not going to change how I feel about it. I think the stories were great. I think the movies were awesome. I think it still has a presence of some kind of level of, what's the word I want to say? My nerdism, enlightenment or some kind of like, oh, I feel something every time you're there. When I still go to Orlando, I love going to Harry Potter World. So it's not going to change my whole sense of me personally, but
yeah.
She's a mess. I think she's always been a mess, but I'm not surprised about that.
I mean, yeah. No, I know. Agreed.
So as we get into Nerdology 101, we were talking last time, you're going to give me some really good insight onto the world of your level of nerdism. And I don't mean this in a bad way. People always think I come at people want to say this. Like, no, nerdology is like a philosophy. It's a way of learning something. And I think it's always great to understand it from different points of view. And you were educating me on the aspects of like it's not role-playing games. You really told me this, and I'm already freaking forgetting already because I am that bad.
Where's your coffee? Like, do you have...
Exactly. It's like, what time is it? It's afternoon. Cool. Yep, my afternoon drip. I didn't get it today. But Dungeons and Dragons, those kind of games, what are they called again?
So they're called TTRPGs, which is tabletop role-playing games.
Got it. Okay.
And D&D is I don't know what you call it. Maybe like the grandfather of it, like the big one that everyone knows, right? Right. But there are so many small ones and other things and other mechanics. Some deal with regular dice, others deal with cards, some deal with tokens. They all have different worlds, different structures. But I specifically know more or have gotten into recently D&D itself. When I was running an organization called In My Sci-Fi and Fantasy back in 2010, so like it was from 2008 to 18. I had somebody running a D&D every Sunday, and he had like long-standing campaigns and one-shots and things like that.
Oh wow.
Which was really cool, and I do remember playing once or twice, but oddly enough at that point I kind of like turned my nose at it, and I was all like, whatever, this is game. I don't understand this. I don't get why this is so fun.
Just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this.
Yeah. I was like, you're big into it. Go have fun. And then Dimension 20 and Critical Role came out, and, kind of showing it from kind of more of an improv point of view and comedy, as opposed to like a, here's the rules, here's the structure of the game, and we're playing in a game.
Right.
It kind of opened up my mind to like, oh wait, this is more storytelling. This is more, how can we tell stories through characters we've created, as opposed to here's all the rules and here's the things. Because I think a lot of D&D fans, and I don't know because I wasn't doing it on a regular with my friends, but I do know that people can get really crunchy about the rules and really like, if you roll this and you do this at this time, you can't use this, and right. So the cool thing about Dimension 20 and about Critical Role is like they allow a little bit more flexibility, and within the D&D community, it's called the rule of cool. It's like I could either enforce this really stupid arbitrary rule and be an asshole about it, or I can let it go for now because narratively it makes a really cool story. Okay, I'm going to let it go because it's cool and it's fun. right?
Ah,
So it's
okay.
been kind of cool to watch that and see that and then play it in other D&D campaigns and in, DMs.
And
So
how do you
mm.
guys do it? Is it like a community? Like you talk about this community system, but is it something like a? I don't even say Facebook. I think we're too old for that. But I think is
Mm.
it like a way that everyone comes together? Is it virtual? Is it like meetings
Yeah.
weekly? Like how does that kind of work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, well, as you know, with pandemic, everything shifted everything, right?
Yeah,
As we're doing this, right? I think if this was pre-pandemic, you'd be in a studio sitting, in a
yeah.
room or something,
Hey, that's very true.
right?
Yeah.
So pre-pandemic, that's exactly what it was. It was finding a place to lay out the map or the board or whatever it is, having minis, having um, the physical dice, meeting people where they're at. Now, after pandemic, they basically have created this place called Start Playing, and you can
Hmm.
go online, and there are people who freelance as DMs, dungeon masters, or some people call them game masters, and they will run one shots or campaigns with you, and you just pay a minimal fee, like $25-$30 for the night,
Wow.
and you play like 3 or 4 hours. So if you want to roll up a character like literally tonight, like after we were done here, you could probably just jump on and go and like start playing.
And what is the overall like concept of the game? Like what is it that I guess someone would get out of it? Like what do they enjoy most about it? It's almost like you're building like an avatar or a different aspect of yourself outside of the normal day-to-day world you have?
I mean, yeah, essentially, like I think everyone goes into it with like a different idea, a different
Hmm.
feel, a different thing, right? Like I think that's what's really cool about D&D as opposed to other games, right? So if you play Taboo or Monopoly or whatever, you know what you're getting. You know
Right.
exactly what that setup is. And
Yeah.
everyone is going into it with that idea. When you go into D&D, it can go left and right at all different times of the game
Okay.
without you knowing. And it can be fun because of different aspects. So if you enjoy that crunchiness of the gameplay where you have to roll dice and fight and you build characters so you can fight each other, you might like very battle heavy storylines,
Hmm.
where there are some people who go in like myself who like kind of improv or kind of story development, and so you will like the role play aspect, or you might like both. And
Yeah.
so what's great, somebody said this, I can't remember who, but basically D&D is interactive storytelling,
Yeah. Just storage it. Oh, that's a good way of looking at it.
right?
And that's what I would
So
think about it too. I would think like I looked at Dungeons and Dragons or I looked at War of Warcraft. Yeah, it was kind of
yeah.
like
Mhm.
that kind of world building, but also like you were kind of. I guess it's almost the same. I shouldn't say the same, but like maybe kind of we felt with The Sims. It's almost like you had this simulation of a world where like you were kind of outside of your regular world, but it was so addicting to it, and you were just like. And also, I think people were just kind of figuring out the most cringiest or stupid things they can make their Sims do, and I feel
I'm
like
100%.
so it's almost like, oh, how do you really do it? Like, what happens? Like, okay, what kind of drama? What can I make them do? So,
We all know we had everyone having sex with everyone else. We had them all
no
like in
gender, no labels, just
just
free
going at
to at
it.
it. Yeah.
They every location on the map, you know, they'd have them go into the bathroom and have the little bar come up and all the like things. And it's just stupid.
Uh,
You'd go and put fires in and see how they run around and like, I'm gonna die. All that bullshit. I did that for a while.
it's very like sadic. And it's like almost like you obviously you're playing Puppet Master. You're just seeing the
Mhm.
death tolls and the things you would do to people. Just be like, sit back, like, and you're like, I'm kind of
Come on.
worried about
How
you.
many people? I mean, I feel like you probably did this. It's like you built SimCity. You do all this really cool like the
Oh, you
city like
destroy it.
builds, and then
Oh
it's just
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
like
I mean, that was the whole
do,
point of the
do.
game. Like, you had to at some point destroy your city. I felt
Yeah.
no. Granted, I felt bad about it, and I was like, oh god, I would never want to do that to my people. But after a while, I was like, it's kind of fun in a way,
I mean,
Doing
to
it.
be fair, looking at our world or even like ancient
That's
Rome and
true.
whatnot, right?
That's
Like at
true.
some point, it's going to either implode on itself or you have to do it. Like it's
One
like
way or
yeah.
another. I love that. I think one time I was thinking of a movie idea and I said, how crazy would it be? I created a movie called The Sims, which I'm pretty sure the latest Ryan Reynolds movie what was it called? The Fall Guy, I think it was.
Oh, Free Player.
Free Player, or whatever that movie was called.
Yeah,
But Free Guy, I think Free Guy.
Free
But
Guy. Yeah.
it was kind of like that. It's like I thought about creating a world where you just come in, you're just assimilated to this whole world you created, just all the things you can do. And then I actually love that movie because it made it so like crazy to think of like what goes on. It reminded me a lot of Chris Pratt's one, Legos, where he was in the Lego movies.
Yes.
And it was kind of like you have this whole different world you can build. And I think that does excite us in a way to feel like you have that level of creativity that, like, as you mentioned earlier, it's never ending. It's never like a set, like, okay, I'm going in, I'm doing this. But it's more of like, okay, I might have done this, but there's repercussions. Here's a new branch of a story you can go into with that.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, with like you saying, like it really allows you to develop either, and to your question earlier about this idea of like, do you create a character that's like you as an avatar and you just play it out, or do you create a completely different version? Like for me, I tend to be a little reserved in normal interactions. Maybe after getting a little drinks, I might get kind of loose and whatnot. But I actually internally love the idea of a bard. Just complete chaos. Somebody going in and just being like, "Hey, everybody, who's up for going and doing shooting over in the range?" And the other, and they're like in the middle of like this heavy discussion. It's just like stupid shit like that. I remember I was playing D&D with my friends a couple years ago, and I was a bard, and I went up to talk with friends, and they were all like hush hush and all this, and I was that guy who was just like, "Hey, bad guy, I'm over here, what's going on, like let's go and party." And I just start dancing with the bad guy, and I just like, "Hey, everyone beers, everyone." Like I was just like complete chaos, and I got my ass kicked, and I was just like, yeah, okay, that's fun. So it can be really nice to go in there and just be ridiculous and stupid and fun. And
now, what would you suggest for someone who's like kind of new to this, kind of like myself, and someone's being like, this sounds interesting, I want to get involved, but I don't have a lot of background, I don't have a lot of, insights. I know sometimes people get intimidated by that when you're around people who are good at doing these games. And it's like, if you're a newcomer, and I feel like it's obviously, I know you're not like this, but I feel like a lot of people sometimes feel like they just are kind of ostracized or kind of like not accepting. I mean, how would you just explain to someone to kind of coming in as fresh and new and being like, hey, this is a safe space. It's okay for you to come in not knowing stuff, and we're here for you. Like, how would you help someone feel that level of comfortability to be able to do that?
Well, it's funny because this is, as we were talking off mic, we were talking about how like you're working on your podcast community, and that, they're great and they're really supportive. It's the same thing with the indie community. They want you to come in and play. They want you to learn. And it's funny because this question has been posed a lot to like the big creators and the big people that are in the community, and literally their answer every time is just start playing, just jump in. We will help you. It's fine, right? Like, we get it. It is a lot to learn, and it can be scary. But if you just are honest about like, hey, never played, love to learn, let's do this. The DM will be very open to helping you create characters, helping you to learn how to play. Like there was one DM I was playing with, which I would say, oh, I want to attack this and I want to do this spell, and they're like, well, unfortunately in the rules you can't really do that, but here's like 3 other options that you can do, and it can still do what you're looking to do
at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really welcoming.
I was thinking of that show with Rob McEnally from It's Always Sunny, Mythic Quest. Did you ever watch that show?
I started watching it, not my humor, so I kind of stopped. But I do get that, and that is the antithesis. Like that is completely separate from the way the D&D community works. Like we are very much accepting, very much.
Not leaving people out. I remember that when I watched it, I was like, oh, is this how this world is? I mean, I think everyone thinks of anything. Like, I mean, I'm a big, like, comic book nerd, and I feel like, we had this conversation, like, you don't know a lot about it, but I've never have been to the point where I'm like, I was shunned so for not knowing anything. Unless you're my boyfriend, and I'm like really going to call you out because you should know by now. But
I mean,
I still give him a pass here and there. But, but like for friends, it's like I've never been that way, but I do feel like sometimes people are almost like arrogant about it. And I
Yes.
think it's bad because it's like some people just want to learn and just want to know about things. And it's okay if you don't know anything, you know?
Well, my feeling is I think that has shifted in the last, I don't know, 10 years. Because
Yeah.
when I started NY Sci-Fi, I felt like that gatekeeping was very much part of our culture and part of
Hmm.
the sci-fi and fantasy geekdom culture. But I
Yeah.
think with it exploding and with the, Comic Cons and people going to them and Game of Thrones and all these other things that have become a lot more mainstream, I
Yeah.
think that a lot of those people who gatekeep have kind of been put in their place a little bit and been
Yeah.
like, okay, like you need to stop. We accept everyone. Let's just do this, right? Um,
Exactly.
and I'll be honest, I think that a lot of that gatekeeping comes from many, many, many years of us as nerds and geeks being shunned ourselves. And we're like, oh, you want in our world? You didn't want anything before. Why are you here? Right. And so
Hmm.
I think we had to kind of retool that and be like, okay, yes, we're traumatized, but that doesn't mean we have to treat each other
We
shitty.
all been traumatized. We've all been there. But no, it's very true, and that translates to everything in life. Honestly,
No,
it's
yeah,
almost like like our community, the LGBTQI. Oh, I forget a fucking letter. What? But it's just like, yeah, it's the same way. It's like, oh, I don't want straights. My friend brought this up to me, and I said, this is actually a good point. He says, well, if you don't want straights in the gay bar, then what's the point of being open and accepting? And I said, you're right. And I said, I don't look at it as a bad way. Like, I don't want straights in the bar. I don't like it when straights make it about them in the bar. It's okay to be there and be in a space and enjoy it with friends or family, whoever the case may be. But when you cause a spectacle to yourself, AKA a lot of bachelorette parties sometimes, like, it's like you gotta read the room, you know. But I do agree the fact that everyone should be welcome. Of course, I'm not going to tell someone not to come anywhere, but
yeah,
just don't. The problem is people want to make things about themselves, and I'm like, it can't always be about you. You
right.
know, it's
Yeah,
like yes, you understand something, you want to learn something, you want to be a part of things, but sometimes just sit back and just enjoy it and learn and take in the lessons,
yeah.
and then find your tribe when you go in from that point. But coming in headstrong, it's like, dude,
What do you?
go have
Yeah,
several seats. Like, it's not that serious.
it really isn't. And I think that I remember I don't know, what was it, like a couple months ago on TikTok, that was a big thing. It was like went viral about, oh, should straight people be in gay bars and
Yeah.
what people think. And there were a lot of people who made some really good points where it was just like, well, we created this place so that we could feel safe. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with not having them because this is our space, only space we have.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, but I also agree with you in the sense that, but you have allies that are willing to be there. Can they come? Like, I think we should be able to be okay with them too. Like,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a balance. And there are
Right.
clubs if you want to go to, and if you want to do that. I'm pretty sure I can't get my straight friend to come to the Eagle. I mean, if it's a Love the Daddy bar, but if he wants to, I'd be very shocked. But I'm like, I don't think that's the level that you are looking for. But
I mean, you never know.
I,
One drunk night.
I shouldn't judge it, but I'm like, I don't think this is. He goes, I've heard this place called the Eagle. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think you want to. I'm like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, let's find somewhere nicer for you to go to.
Like, I feel like they have an event tonight. Let's
yeah,
try something else.
let's ease you into this world a little differently. But like, it's so great that people have, and that's one of the things I love about New York City as well too. It's like you have so many avenues, so many places to go, and so many places to network, and to have these communities to go to,
Yeah.
and feel that level of safety with people, which I think is really great. So.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Like, you guys have that, and that is something that anyone can come into and feel accepted or understood and be able to just enjoy themselves. At the end of the day, you want to have fun.
Yeah.
The whole point is just to have fun, right? That's what it's about.
And that's what, when I created NY Sci-Fi and Fantasy, and it was actually literally that. I mean, there were other reasons I created it, but the main reason was this is a community where the like geeky, awkward, I don't know how to deal with, social places, but I love this show. I can come in and like engage with a whole bunch of people. And then you have the polar opposite where it's like, I'm kind of a fan, and I'm like mainstream person who's very sociable. I just want to come and see what this is, right? And it was a nice, comfortable place where all people could come together and really engage. And so, as I continued to grow it, that was kind of my objective was, why can't we have the cool kids and the awkward kids come together?
That's the whole social experience, right?
Yeah, and then a happy world.
Needs to be at some point.
Really? Was it?
Well, we tried. Well, on to that next subject we were talking about.
Awkward. Okay.
Awkward. You were talking about so tell us a little bit about your new job, because it's going to be a segue to we talk about careers and things that are happening for generations today. So tell us a little about your background and your job and how you got to where you are.
Sure. So I am a director of substance use service programs at Bridging Access to Care. We are an organization that's been around about 35 years, started as a AIDS task force and just kind of grew from there and evolved. I like I said, I just recently started. So, still kind of learning the ropes and building the programs and things like that. But prior to that, I had been VP of Behavioral Health Program in Staten Island, which was kind of the same thing. It was the same kind of organization. And so I oversaw their substance use program. And then prior to that, I worked as an area director for a big housing program. So I oversaw several housing structures for individuals who are formerly homeless, suffering from substance use and mental health issues, as well as, physical issues and other disabilities. And I did that for many, many years. Surprisingly, I fell into housing. I wasn't expecting to do that. I went for my career in social work, as most people do. And I was like, I want to be a therapist. I don't want to do anything else. But I needed money and I needed to get my credentials. So that took a while. And as I did, I found a job as a case manager in housing. And then after I started doing that, I was like, this is amazing. I want to do this work. Because housing really gives you a snapshot of an individual, because what you do is you go into their apartment and engage them once a week or once a month, depending on the criteria. And you kind of say, are you maintaining your house? Are you paying your rent? Are there repairs that need to get done? What's going on with your psych? What's going on with, substances, things like that. So you get this whole holistic sense, and you're in their home, right? You're engaging them in their space. So you truly see who they are. And what's really cool is you'll walk in and it'll be nice and clean and organized one day. And then 3 months later, you walk in and it's complete chaos and there's nothing's clean, and they haven't showered, and you're like, okay, something happened. What's up? Let's talk through this, right? And kind of help them through it. And now, when I went to college, I initially wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a secondary history teacher. And I took a semester of classes and I was like, fuck this. I hate this. I don't like any of these regulations. And I was like, I just want to help people. And so I ended up getting my psychology degree and the history degree. And then after, obviously, as you know, with a bachelor's, you can't do shit. So after a couple of years of that, I was like, well, I should go back to school, and ended up getting my master's. So that's kind of my trajectory.
And what has that kind of been your experience, or what has kind of led you down this path? I mean, you talked about not being a teacher, but was there something that you may have saw, or someone you saw in dire need, to someone from substance abuse? Where does this sense of help and really want to be there for other people, where does this resonate for you? Where does this kind of come from?
It's really just we were talking a little bit early now about you, but it really came from the fact that I myself struggled, and I can't hear on my left ear, and I have some learning disabilities myself. And in doing so, school was very difficult for me. And, growing up in the early 90s, there was no help. There was no understanding of any of that. It was very oh, you have a disability? Okay, you're stupid. Go into resource class, right? Oh, you have a disability. Let's figure that out. Let's integrate you into the mainstream work. Let's, talk about it, all that shit. So I had a couple of teachers who were very much mentors and were very much like, oh, I see you struggling. Let me take you under my wing and like, well, I'll be a listening for you. I'll help you, things like that. So after that, I was just like, well, let me do that for somebody else. I want to be a teacher that can, help those kids. And then, after the first semester, they were like, so you can't talk, look, be in the same room with a kid in any shape or form. And you have to like 5 hours of extra work you have to do outside your regular work hours. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, no, I'm good. Thanks. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided I think I could be more helpful doing it through psychology and being a therapist and things like that. And I have always been super fascinated by the human mind and why we think the way we do and what makes us do what we do and patterns. And I always enjoy kind of that question of like, what are you feeling? What's going on for you? Why did you do that? Like,
And we don't have that question asked a lot of us. I think in the last maybe couple of years and maybe post-COVID, it's kind of been a thing because I think COVID really stretched people's mental capacities of, you're kind of in one space, you're in one home, you're seeing yourself every day. And it's like you have no level of social connection. For some people, that is really important. Some people, they're probably thriving and loving it, but either way, it's now coming to a point where it's like it's okay to understand you need a mental health day. It's okay to ask your friends how they're doing. It's okay to like have those conversations because we just never really do that before. And as you mentioned early in the 90s, like I feel like even back when I was growing up, it was a learning disability. It's almost like okay, great. You know what I mean? And it was like you were not, it wasn't that you were stupid. It's just like you needed extra help to do something, but people don't want to take the time.
No,
they don't want to take a special time to do it. They don't want to take time to, and maybe it could be resources or what the case is, but it's almost to the point of like, I'm so glad to see that now. And people like you who are just really being like, people are not throwaway people. No. I think we get to this point in love our society where it's like, you screw up, you do something bad, you go to jail, and that's it. And it's like, that's one level of it. Also it's like people who have substance abuse. I mean, I had an uncle that way. I had other family members like that. And it's like, they're not bad people. They went through something tragic and they're trying to get better. But if you're not helping them, what are you really doing? And the problem sometimes comes in enabling, which I know you hear this word probably multiple times. And it's like, where do you draw that line for that? But then it's hard, right? It's got to be very hard to know where that line is of helping or enabling someone.
It is. And that brings me to like the work that we're currently doing and the modalities that the substance use community is gearing towards is this idea of what we call harm reduction. Prior to harm reduction, it was a lot of that like abstinence only or recovery based. So it's like the goal is abstinence, but like it's a process to get there. Harm reduction says, no, you can do what you're doing. You just have to do it safely or reduce the use of what you're doing. So like you say, enabling. So some of the words like I'm very, especially now, I'm very mindful of the language that I use because harm reduction not only is working with the individual and minimizing their harm, but also it's a political movement around reducing harm as a systemic issue. Right. So like you're saying, people get thrown away into the prisons. Well, okay, you're in prison. So now what are you going to do all that time? Oh, there's drugs. Maybe I'll start using. You know what I mean? Like if we don't get them in prison in the first place, maybe they don't get on drugs. Right. So then it becomes this bigger question of like, how are we treating that individual? What is the dialogue we're having? And, using the words like substance use instead of abuse, using words, it's not enabling, it's just helping and supporting and, having dialogue. So some people do think it's enabling, but what we do is we actually provide people with like syringes and we say, you're going to use, fine, but you're not supposed to use a syringe more than once. So if you do run out of syringes, why don't you come here, give us the ones you just used, we'll give you a new set. We know that those are clean and we know that those are safe and we know you're going to use no matter what. Like it's not a question of like, oh, if we stop you, if we don't give you anything, you're going to stop. No, you're going to still go out there. You're still going to do the bad things.
You're going to find it one way or another.
Right?
Yeah.
So why not do it safely? And that's why, I don't know if you're aware, is there's two places kind of pilot programs. They're self-funded around substance use, and they literally are a place where people can use on site, and it's called On Point. It's in Harlem, and they have found that because of there being nurses and doctors on site, people will get high. People might even get close to overdose, and then because they have doctors nearby, they can give them oxygen and save their life. Right? Instead of them being in a abandoned building by themselves using substances that aren't like what's the word, like essentially medically supervised, so you don't know what's in it, all those types of things, and that person could die, where they've had no deaths over the whole entire time that they've been in operation because of this.
And is there I guess maybe it's a process or something where it's like you're saying, you're going to use it, but is it kind of like, because I know withdrawal symptoms is a huge thing. I know it's definitely a thing. Is it a way of like helping people say, okay, we're going to give you this, but then hopefully gradually you find the need for yourself to help, or the case is that you're eventually going to be like, you know what, I don't think I want this anymore. Is that kind of the process that we assume is what's helping versus a hard cut and that's it?
Right. So yes, that is the idea. I mean, I even, I don't know if you're aware is that like people who go and do AA, they might be alcoholics. AA's theory is you stop all drugs. So if you like to smoke marijuana and that's not an issue for you, you smoke it doesn't impact your day. Like, let's say it allows you to go to sleep at night, whatever, maybe even helps with some of the cravings around alcohol. AA would say, no, you're not clean. You have to abstain. And that's the idea, and kind of going to what you're saying with withdrawals, like, okay, so you're going to withdraw from X. Could Y that you already used help you in minimizing the harm of that withdrawal? Okay,
that's very true.
So then now you're completely withdrawal from this first thing. You're still using this other thing. Is it impacting your life? And that's the other question, right? Is like, people assume this idea of like, oh, we're going to use drugs, you have to abstain, you have to stop. And it's like, but what if it helps your life? What if it's maintaining you doing your job? I mean, there are people, CEOs and otherwise, who are using cocaine and other things. Like, we know they're using, and they're functioning people, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to, are you functioning? No, you're not. Okay, then we have to have a conversation around that. Like, what is happening? Can you minimize use so it's not impacting your life in any way? And then it becomes that bigger conversation. And then on top of that, that's trauma, right? It's like, I would argue that a good percentage of people who use drugs and have used them in a way that impacts their life negatively are using them to minimize their mental health issues and deal with the traumas that they've had. And so what harm reduction does, it says, you've been traumatized, and we use it in conjunction with trauma-informed care and motivational interviewing. And so trauma-informed care is this idea that it's like, we all have trauma in some shape or form. We don't know what the trauma is, and you don't have to tell us, but we have to acknowledge that it's there and it's part of this process. And then there's person-centered and motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is one of these things which I think a lot of people are actually very comfortable with. It's like empathizing with what somebody might say, and then kind of turning the question around and like really investigating it. So like, if somebody's like, oh, I just want my kids back. Okay, yeah, understandable. You want your kids back. So what do you think you need to do to get your kids back? And then the person goes, oh, I have to stop drinking. I was like, okay, what does that look like for you? Right? So like, they have to come up with the solution themselves instead of us telling them what it is.
You're just kind of the guide along the way to kind of help them get to that.
And that's that kind of person-centered modality of like, well, what do you want to do? How do you want to deal with things? And they may come in with like cocaine addiction, and they're like, oh, I want to stop drinking. It's like, in your head, you're like, shouldn't you deal with the cocaine? But it's like,
you're like, there's something else you probably should be considering.
But they're not there. They're not willing, right? So maybe, okay, you decrease the alcohol, now they can start attaining to the cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Is there some level of, in your understanding, in your education, that you learned where it's like, when it comes to addiction, we talked a little bit about trauma, but is there something that's like I want to say chemical imbalance or something that like causes people to be drawn to certain drugs or certain actions? Is there things that could be unlearned? Like, is there a way that we can look into the psychosis of someone and see if they're either broken or they're hurt? I should say broken, but they're in a place that's not really, that they're harming themselves and they don't know it. How do we find a way to get them from not doing that, and then also give them the resources to help themselves without feeling like we're pointing a finger and putting them down for whatever the case may be? Because a lot of times that does happen. I've seen that happen many times where it's like, okay, you're like we said earlier, you're a coke addict. Okay, so you're an awful person. You're this and that. There's a stigma behind that, but it's also like, no, people probably use that drug all the time. It's not for me, but I mean, I'm sure people use it, But as you said earlier, it's to what degree are you using it? Okay, so if you're not going to use it, let's find out why you were using it in the first place. And once again, it's almost like you hit something great where it's like, don't force people to talk about their trauma. I think sometimes we get in this process like, let me know everything. Tell me everything. Break it down. It's like, this isn't a Barbara Walters, 60-minute interview. It's like, it's everyone's personal journey, and they have to feel comfortable to come to you with that. And no, that takes a lot of level and trust to do that. So I think as long as you're not giving shame to someone and you're not trying to put them down, I'm hoping that people are finding a way to, be able to be open to that. I kind of answered my own question, but still, I hear your point of it.
I was like, great. All right, good. That was great.
I don't answer anything. You're fine.
No, but I mean, you're right. I mean, that's essentially what harm reduction is. And again, I want to just kind of point out, because I think some people hear harm reduction, it's like, oh, they just stopped drinking, or they just stopped doing this. It's like, or minimizing the use. It's like, yes, that's part of it, but it's also a social movement towards systemic shifts in how people are perceived. Because a lot of, like you're saying, like it's a lot of this idea. It's like, how do we create a space where they're not judged? How do we create a space where they feel comfortable? One of the things in my current agency is that it was a abstinence-based program, and I'm shifting it over to a harm reduction modality. And the way it looks in that space is very clinical. It's very like, I'm in a program. I've come into this space to like get clean, right? And one of the big things that I first said to my boss was just like, okay, I want to shift all this. I want to change all this, because what we want to do, and this is what my last agency had, was a place where you're walking in and no one would know that that's an agency, right? They would just feel like it's a storefront or like a random place. And you come in feeling very welcomed, and you feel like you have a place to hang out and, all this type of stuff. And it's like, oh, I really want to go and grab something from my dealer. Let me actually walk into this agency first and hang out and have a cup of coffee, where they can shoot the shit with me and not make me feel guilty for having a craving.
Absolutely.
So that's the idea, is this social shift, because and that's the thing with social work. It started as essentially, I think it was white Jewish women, basically, who were like, oh, the poor need help. Let me go and help them. Right. It was very like privileged white people helping the poor. And the shift now is very much like, we're not helping them. We are providing space for them to help themselves. We are providing space so that they can tell us what they need, instead of us as a social workers being like, you have to do X, Y, and Z.
And obviously that probably makes them feel so much better knowing that they had this journey. Obviously they had help along the way, but that they were doing this themselves.
Right.
They weren't trying to just like, well, yeah, we helped you. And, I feel like our government does a stupid job of this so badly, where it's like, we come in, we do this, and like, we're going to put our foot down, do that. But like, that doesn't help anyone's morale or ambition of like getting better or feeling good about themselves. I mean, think about it as a man in general. And I hate to use sexism as a thing, but it kind of is, it's a level of pride, and it could be to the female world too, and femininity, but it's like, it's a level of a person's pride that you're taking away from them. It's almost like we talked earlier about disability. I had dyslexia as a kid, and I think I've gotten over the years, but it's almost like, you put someone in a box, like you mentioned, it's like you go somewhere, and obviously it's a very trigger for me, and being African-American, where it's like colored, what, you know what I mean? So it's like, you keep this kind of separation happen, disability versus non-disability. It's like, you're not building any bridges by doing this, and then causing more attention to it does not make people like, I want to come forward and talk about this.
Exactly.
It's like, it's not helping.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, I think that we struggle with that. And much like you're saying, like power and, oh, I know best type of thing. And, I think some people might argue, be like, well, then why is there a social worker? Why can't they just, it's like, well, we're here to guide with information and data.
Yeah, you're guiding.
Right.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
not here to fix it, but we are here to say, we're going to be a listening ear. And I think that unfortunately is something that's rare and a lot of people don't always know how to do. Mm-hmm. And I think it's somewhat teachable, but I think it's also instinctual that it's like, okay, I'm going to create a space for you. What does that look like? Right. Exactly. I mean, I'll be honest, I still get into times where I'm just like, so you should do this and this and this. And then I'll turn around and go,
I probably should have come back.
Maybe I'll stop.
Like, okay, let me come back. You also like, am I mansplaining? Am I doing it this way? Like, it's almost like, this. It's this thing where I joke about it, but it's not. I don't sing anyone out, but I find it that most white men love hearing themselves talk. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing, but it's
as
also
a white guy, I can tell you, other white guys like that.
Yeah, but you're just like, what? Okay, and it's not that it's nonsense. It's fine. It's just the fact that like you look at certain aspects of where people come from, and it's just like, okay, are you preaching to me or are you talking to me? And there's a difference. There's one way to actually have a conversation and talk to someone. There's another where you start preaching and spewing things. So you're just like, okay, Jeff, thank you so much. I hear you.
Yes. Not that I haven't read like all the books around what you just talked about or, know exactly what. So like, that's one thing. And I try very hard to do is like, sometimes I will say things and I will like look at people and I'll like kind of read the language of like, okay, your body language is showing this. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking. What's up? Like, know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think anyone does that, right? They're not watching the other person. They're not seeing what's going on.
I think, and I've gotten better at this over the years, but my friendships and relationships is being able to, I realized I'm very vain. I realized about myself a long time ago. Hey, I can admit it.
So, all right, we're going to turn this into a therapy session. What's going on?
Why are you vain, Dak?
What's going on, man?
What's happening? But like, I've learned, like, for the most part in my relationships, I was like, I've always not really talked much about myself, but I was like, I'm so about vanity and like how I look and how I present it. But I realized it was coming back from family. It was like, you have to look this way. If you're Black, you can't do certain things that a white person can't do. So it becomes that kind of stillness that's in you where it's like, I don't live in a world where I hope I'm still not in a world where that is still there. I'm not an idiot. I know it's there.
Yeah.
But I want to make it to the point where like people coming after me, there's like, these doors are open for you. There is opportunity to grow. You just have to be able to get out of your own mindset and be okay with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And be okay with the unknown. And then you can find that level of success you can find.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized, I was like, I don't want to keep being that person. And in my relationships, I was the same way. I was like, it's just about me. And I'm like, it's not about me. That makes me a narcissist. And I don't want to be that person,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think, that's important to know. And I think that's something our society is definitely struggling with. Like, there's all the generation arguments of like, are they working? Are they not? Is the person like, caring too much about them? Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
And I'm not disagreeing that there are issues, between generations, which I think always happens. But sure. I think that it comes down to that idea that, each generation has gone through a whole different spectrum of traumas absolutely. And issues that they're going to have to deal with. And at the end of the day, we're human. We are narcissistic, right? We are full of ourselves because back in the day, if we weren't, we'd die, right? Like,
you didn't make a stance. You were just Alan. You're like Alan from Barbie. Oh, hey, Alan.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice thing. I was thinking more of that joke where it's like, what is it? It's like you have to run faster than the guy next to you, right? If the bear's going to go and grab, right? It's not about running out of the bear. It's outrunning the guy next to you, right? So it's just like, I think there's still that innateness for us and we tend to still do that. But I think that we're not there anymore. We're not, running from that bear, right?
And I honestly feel like COVID, like I said, I'm going back to COVID. I think that changed a lot of it. I think a lot of people are a little more empathetic to other people. I know for sure I've gotten better at being like, life is short. We're only in this we're only in this world for so long. So if you keep trying to live by these certain rules or regulations of how things are, and then your life could be gone just like that. And then you look back, you didn't live, you didn't do anything. You didn't get a chance to explore. I also think for me, at least, and this is one of the things I do promote people, is just travel. Get out there and travel. Obviously, travel safely. Go to gay-friendly places or go places that to your ethnic background, but also explore as much as possible and open your minds up to different worlds, because ideally, different parts of the world, but also different cultures, to see we're not the only person in the world. I mean, I feel like sometimes with Americans, we think we're just like, oh yeah, American, we're
the best.
But it's also like you can learn so much more from these different cultures. I started dating John. I started learning more about Scotland and Ireland and learned about different levels of what life is. And I'm like, wow, that's a good way of looking at stuff. And obviously, I still feel like in my head, Europe does things a lot better than we do sometimes. But, I think a lot of that just comes from experience and realizing that it's a level of acceptance that I haven't seen happen outside of growing up in, obviously the Bay Area and then growing up here. If I was in rural Mississippi or Alabama, probably not.
Right.
Or some of those other places or their small towns. So it's like you got to expand yourself. You got to at least try something, try to learn something, or try to better yourself one way or another. Even if it's something small.
Yeah.
And take pride in the little small things. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just take pride in the small steps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if my wife was here, she would just be like, yes, because she just wants me to get a passport so bad. She's just like, you have to get it.
You don't have a passport,
I don't have a passport.
Wow.
I don't have a passport. I have to get a passport. She's just like, you want to do something for my birthday? Get a passport. I was like, really? She's like, yes. I was like, fine, I'll get a passport. So
it'd be so great. You'll just love the world. I could take you to Scotland. You'll enjoy it.
Look, the main reason is, Juanita's Malaysian. So she does want me to come over and see her family and see all that. So that's part of that. And then on top of that, we want to go to Europe and see all those places.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, so I want to go to Britain and do all that. But it's expanding your mind. And, one thing that, kind of going into our talk about geekdom is like, for me, I'm not 100% of a passive TV watcher. Like, it looks like I am, but I feel like I always try to learn something from the shows I'm watching and the things I'm doing, even the stupid stuff, right?
Yeah,
like, I mean, and like, there's something interesting there you just said. What is that? And then like take out my phone and start Googling shit, right? And I always thought that was how most people did it. And apparently that's not the case. A lot of people just watch. But I think there's always things to learn. There's always new stuff. There's always like self-reflection, growth, understanding.
Absolutely.
So even if you're not doing the travel, there's so many other areas where it's like, I'm going to pick up a book or I'm going to watch this new show. Like,
or as you say, playing the games and the role-playing games, like there's something different. There's something you might unlock by doing that and understanding about yourself.
Exactly.
Just get out of your comfort zone. Just get out of your comfort zone and try something.
But I also think that, anyone listening, I would say getting out of your comfort zone doesn't mean completely eradicating your comfort zone.
No, don't
right?
go skydiving.
I feel like
if you're scared, don't go do that. I'm not saying go crazy. Well,
that does sound fun.
Oh, God, no,
no, you don't want to.
Absolutely not.
Come on, bungee jumping.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Literally, we just talked about getting your comfort zone, but not too much.
I mean, now I kind of want you to. You're the one who's getting out of your comfort zone even more than I am.
I've already learned to fly over an ocean to the other side of the world.
Yeah,
I got over one fear. So
okay.
I'll do one at a time.
Okay. Fair enough. But I mean, you're right. Like, I also, like, I say these things. I doubt I'm going to do those, right? Like, I feel like I'm more kind of the same way, where I'm just like, let me get out of my comfort zone by doing a little something I never would have. Like, I will say that I knew obviously about all the chaos that's happening in the world and Palestine and Israel, and I, saw it on TikTok and of course whatever, but with marrying Juanita, who Malaysia is very anti-Israel, I've learned like a whole nother level of protest and activism and just being, and like, I learned that through being aware and saying, hey, this woman is really great. Let me get to know her. And in doing so, I'm now learning this stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and like she's right now, she's at a protest herself, and we had gone to one in DC.
Word.
So yeah, it's doesn't have to be this huge erratic thing. It can just be like, let me not have the same things pop up on my feed. Let
No.
me like something else. Let me Google something else.
Because the algorithm will always get you every time and make
Every
you
time.
do certain things. Like I look at one shirtless man, and now my whole
All
algorithm.
over. Yep.
So it is. I'm not
Look,
complaining
man, when
about
I was
it,
single,
but I'm just saying. I'm saying it's like Jesus Christ. It's like like one photo. That's it.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah.
I when I was single, I was on Instagram. I'm not anymore, but when I was, I would like a couple of hot girls. I would be like, oh, she's dancing. That's cool. All of a sudden, every single person I'm following is
everyone.
And I was like, I looked at it. I was like, maybe I should change this.
Yeah, you're like,
I don't need to follow that many.
No, probably not. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, Dan, do you have any advice for our generation coming in, or anyone who's interested in social work, or anyone that has this passion to want to help others? What would you give them as a quick whim of wisdom from your point of view?
I mean, I think it's kind of what we've been talking about. Like, I think my best advice is just be open to it. Just don't go in being like, I'm going to save the world. Don't go in saying, oh, I'm going to impart wisdom on the less fortunate, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You are just as, and especially in this economy, it's like you're one step away as yourself. So I think we all need to just know we're all the same.
Yep.
And what you're learning is just the information to be able to give to other people if they want it or if they need it. And just be open to it. Just be aware. Just be, I think be willing to learn, be willing to grow, be willing to know that you may not have the answer or know the answer to things, and things might change. And that's okay.
Be okay with that change. See, that's what gets in trouble a lot of times. People not open to that change. I don't
Always
understand
change.
Why. As we come into our new, we like to say our election year this year, do you have any thoughts on that? Have you had any?
They all suck. I want the two-party system to go away.
No.
Capitalism is horrible, and we're all slowly dying. Wait, is that too bleak?
No, it's just reality. Like let's not sugarcoat it.
No, I mean,
I just thought to hear people's like response when I asked, like, so how do you feel this election year? I get the same response, like,
yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, I talked to so. I don't know why I do this, but every so often, I'll check in with my dad and I'll bring up this stuff. And his response is, well, it's better than Trump. And I'm just like, Dad, he's not. They're not. No. They're not. He just is outward about it. Like the rest of them.
Literally. Yes. That's what
it is. He's like, I'm racist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Biden's like, I'm not racist. And then the racist thing. And then you're just like, dude, like, we have receipts. So I probably, there's this new movement out there that I thought was really cool, where you can, instead of checking off the candidates, you could check off, I forget what it's called. It's like it's not undecided, but it's like you're abstaining essentially, and you're saying, I'm unclaimed or undoing, like I'm not interested in voting in this, but I'm still voting.
But you're still voting. You're doing your part. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So this is a movement that I think if the younger generation can do, it's really going to send a signal that like, maybe we need to change this.
Yeah, I just told my friends to put my name in the ballot, just see what happens.
Oh, nice. We'll very selfish, I see.
My vanity has come back again.
Yeah, I see that. Not free Palestine. Not, government sucks. No, that.
No, just vote for that.
Okay. So all of a sudden, it's like this random guy is now on the debates. It's like a lot of write-in votes.
Yeah, like that happened in our. Have we got this far now? It's like, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We got it. Yeah.
We really did, and I think we will. I think it's just. I mean, it's so.
I know.
Ugh, it's bad. I was just talking to a friend, and we're both basically like, "Oh, we're going to go World War III, and we're going to have Civil War, and both are going to happen in our generation."
Yeah,
that's basically it. So get ready. mangle a leg or something so you don't have to do the draft.
Jesus. We're just awful. But not wrong. So.
Oh my God, I'm dying over here.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love to have you back again. And
of course,
talk
this
some
was fun.
other great topics. And wish you all the best. And thank you for
Same.
all you do. And tell Juanita I need a cake pretty soon.
Will do. Maybe when you come back from your 50 weddings.
Okay. 5, not 50. Not 5.
5.
Jeez.
5. Fine.
We'll work on it. We'll get to it.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.